Am I the asshole for calling my 35 male wife, 35 female, a spoiled brat? My wife, 35F, and I, 35M, have been together for 10 years, married 5. We grew up completely different. She's the only child of a surgeon father. Her mother died when she was 2 and it was her and her father for most of her life. He remarried when she was 17. He's wealthy, sent her to private school, paid for her college, and when we met a decade ago he was still paying her rent, even though she had a solid job. I come from a poor family. But we both have pretty good jobs and make around the same amount of money now. She is such a daddy's girl and it's been affecting our relationship. Anytime she wants or needs something, she goes to her dad first. And sometimes it's about things I could help with. I work in tech and back when we started dating she was starting grad school and she asked her dad, "What laptop should I get?" I told her I actually work in the field, which she already knew, and could easily answer that and get her what she needs, and she just kind of shrugged. Okay, fine. These little things have happened throughout the last decade. But there have been bigger issues recently. Last year, she decided she needs a new car. I disagreed. Her car is fine and she works from home and barely drives. She was adamant, though. About a month later, she tells me she's getting a new car. I told her we need to make these decisions together and we share finances and this is a major purchase. She says, "Oh, my dad is buying it. He said we can just sell mine and get some extra money." I told her it's kind of ridiculous to ask her dad to buy her a brand new car when she has a perfectly good one and we don't need it anyways. She got upset and said it's not that big of a deal and her dad doesn't mind and that the car wasn't that expensive anyways. She said I'm overreacting and that it's okay for her dad to do nice things for her. She got a brand new 2022 car completely paid for by her dad. And we sold her old one. Now, we are buying a new house. We've finally narrowed it down to 2 options. We were discussing it last week and my wife says, "Oh, I don't think house A is good. My dad said he think we could do a lot better in our budget." Before she talked to her dad, she loved house A, so I got a bit frustrated and said it didn't matter what her dad thought because this is our family's home and he won't be living there. She got angry. We started arguing. We both said mean things. I called her a spoiled brat and said she needed to grow up and she got upset and slept in the guest room and it's been a few days and we have barely spoken. She said I was so mean to her. Update. Wow, did not expect this to get so much traction. This was mostly a late-night stream of consciousness and I realize I left a lot out, of course. I did apologize to my wife for the name calling and we both agreed we have some issues to work through. Here's some more info for context and to answer some questions I've seen asked. 1. We could have afforded the car on our own. We do well for ourselves. I was not worried about not being able to afford it. I just did not understand the rationale of buying a brand new car when you have a perfectly good one. Her old car wasn't even that old. It was a 2019 and had pretty much all of the same features her new one has. It didn't make sense to me. Also, we have a toddler and it's actually harder for her to get him in the new car than the old one. She also barely drives. I mean, seriously, the car sits in the garage 90% of the time. She has even said before that she hates driving. Sure, it was free, but I guess it's more about the principle than the car itself. But she got what she wanted, so whatever. 2. We've been together 10 years. Has it always been this way? Why did I stay? Valid points. And something I could dig deeper on. No answer right now other than I just fell in love and didn't want to leave. 3. Do I have my own daddy issues? No, not really. My dad and I are fine. My parents are still married. We were very poor growing up and my parents were undocumented, and that was a very stressful way to live, but my family made it work. I live on the other side of the country now, so I don't see them as much, but we talk and visit regularly. 4. My father-in-law is a nice enough guy, and for what it's worth, he also says his daughter is spoiled and has made comments throughout the years about it. Obviously I didn't need to call her a spoiled brat, and I recognize the difference in her dad saying it and me, but I am not the first person to say it to her. I know that doesn't make it right. 5. I recognize I have my own issues due to poverty, trauma and all of that. I have been to individual therapy. That is a forever ongoing process. 6. The house. All of the reasons my wife gave me are just matters of personal preference, like, my dad says we need a bigger kitchen, my dad says we need a bigger backyard. He is also convinced we will have more children even though we said we so not want any more, so he also said we need more rooms for more kids. Nothing about safety of the house, the price, etc. Just things he personally doesn't like or would have different in his home. Also, we've been looking for over a year and he has given his thoughts many times throughout the year. So, I'm not saying she shouldn't ask him for advice. Also, no, he would not be paying for any of the house. 7. My wife has never been to any type of counseling in her life. When I suggested grief counseling for her after I started my own, she looked at me like I said something ridiculous. Her family is very skeptical about therapy. So, I'm not sure if I will get her to do marriage counseling, but we will talk about this further. 8. Finally, my wife is a funny, creative, and beautiful woman. She's a great mom. She makes everyone laugh. I do love her despite what the post may make some of you believe. Thanks to those who sent me thoughtful messages. They provided interesting perspectives. Significant other, this not a full picture of everything. I'm just not willing to spend any more time writing it. It's a lot. You are the asshole. It sounds like you want her to take your advice on everything and not her dad's. It might be that she grew up not wanting for anything and seemingly still doesn't, but you have been with her for a long time, so it's not as though you haven't been aware of it. If he is willing to fund stuff, then just enjoy it, as most people would be quite happy with someone buying them a new car. Yeah, but you have been with her 10 years? You have had plenty of time to talk about this or get out. You've put up with her ways for 10 years, so you must be okay with her. Not the asshole for feeling the way you do. It sounds like your wife doesn't trust herself or you to make any decisions, and instead needs her dad to approve them. That's very annoying, and also, her dad won't be around forever, and she needs to start thinking for herself. On the other hand, you sound resentful, so you probably should have talked about this with your wife before you exploded. So, it's not a great situation, but nothing that can't be solved with better communication. As a father with a married daughter, I understand where he's coming from. He has all this wealth. If not spending it on his kid, then who? Leave it to the taxman? Don't be so sensitive, it comes from a place of love. You are jealous of her dad. Sounds like bruised ego to me, and you are not being grown up. Am I the asshole for cussing out my aunt for not treating me the same as the other nieces and nephews? I'm 16M, and for some reason, I've never felt like I've been treated right by anyone on my mom's side of the family. It's like they treat me like a second-class citizen. I've talked to my folks about this, but they just keep saying it's all in my head. So this week, my mom's sister decides she's gonna take all the nieces and nephews to an amusement park. I tell my mom I'm not going because I know it'll be another round of getting the short end of the stick. Mom insists I go to keep an eye on my younger twin sibs, a 5M A5F, almost 6. So, for their sake, I go. Usually, our families have an older child around my age along with younger siblings close in age to mine sibs. Everyone gets an invite. The older nieces and nephews, like me, and the younger ones. My aunt says we're going in 2 cars, one she's driving, the other by a cousin. She shows up at my place in the morning, doesn't even give me a nod. When she sees I'm joining, she straight up tells me she didn't know I'd be unfortunately tagging along. I'm already taken aback by how bold she is about not wanting me there. We hit the road and stop for lunch at a restaurant. Up until then, everyone's been acting like I'm invisible, not a word directed my way, except from my sibs. The restaurant's set up like this: you go up to the counter, order, eat, then pay on the way out. My aunt starts jotting down everyone's orders to take to the counter. I'm waiting for her to ask me, but she just pretends I'm not there. As she's heading to the counter, I remind her she forgot to ask me what I want. She has the audacity to say I can go order myself, that I'm old enough to handle it, and she's not my waitress and doesn't owe me anything. But even my cousin who's driving, she doesn't suggest to order by himself. For the sake of my sibs, I suck it up, go to the counter, and place my order. My food's ready quicker than everyone else's. Maybe 'cause I ordered solo. So, I grab my grub and start chowing down at the table. My aunt comes over and tells me to stop eating and wait for the others. I tell her my food's gonna get cold, and I prefer eating it hot. She tells me to go sit at a different table if I can't wait for them, and that I won't be missed at the main table. I politely asked my aunt to cut it out with the way she was treating me, that her words were really getting to me, and that she could treat me the same as she did with the other nieces and nephews. She shot back saying she treated me the way I deserved. I couldn't take it anymore and told her to go F off. I called an Uber and split, leaving her to handle my 2 siblings and the other cousins on her own. My folks are pissed at me. Even my grandparents gave me a piece of their minds, telling me to apologize. I ain't about to apologize. Am I the asshole? Info. I truly don't know the reason why she treats me like this. I felt that she's treated me poorly since I was a child. So I can't provide more context. My parents insist that she treats me normally, that it's all in my head. This is the first time I've reacted after years of her ignoring me or treating me differently from the way she treats the other nieces and nephews. Update. I told my parents that I'm obsessed with what happened, and I don't want to apologize. I want to understand why my mother's family treats me differently. I insisted that they treat me differently and wanted an explanation. My parents said it's just because of my autism, and my mother's family don't know how to handle it well, but they'll talk to my aunts and uncles again about it. I'm really afraid of doing something wrong. I still struggle with social interactions, so I always fear that I might be doing something wrong and not even know it. Especially because I want to go to college next year. My therapist says I'm fine, that I know how to behave in all situations, but I'm not sure. Actually, my parents called him and we talked this morning about my aunt. He believed in me, and he said I was right. Not the asshole. However, you need to sit down with your parents and grandparents and get to the bottom of whatever issue or family secret is the reason for her treatment of you. This difference in treatment is obvious and will probably have some explanation you aren't aware of. Not the asshole. She's got serious baggage with you, and your family is hiding it. Either one, she is absolutely crazy and they all refuse to acknowledge there's something wrong with her too. She knows something about you, your parents. Most likely options are that she has some kind of history with your dad, or that you are not biologically related to that side of the family. But you need to draw a line. This woman is mean to you, and you won't be spending time with her anymore. The whole family can throw a fit as much as they like. Info. What do your siblings say when things like this happen? Do they think you deserve it too? And your mom knows the exact events but says it's not lesser treatment? Or have you not shared specifics? This sound like you either have a status or history that you aren't aware of, like perhaps your parentage is not what you think. Or maybe you hurt one of the kids when younger and don't remember. Or it could be that she and the rest of your family are prejudiced against your autism, though the story you recounted doesn't fit as well with that. Not the asshole. I have to ask, are your parents your biological parents? Is this like a homophobia thing or something? I feel context is missing for her strong behavior here. Am I the asshole for not letting my wife name our daughter what she wants? I, F, 28. Am married to another woman, Lily. Lily and I have been married for about 3 years now. We love each other so much and every day still feels like our first date. However, lately our relationship has been strained because she wants to give our daughter a name that I hate. I am the one who is going to give birth to our baby, however our baby is hers too. Since before we were married, we had agreed that she could name our first baby whatever she wanted, and I would name our second child. She has reviewed baby names and told me about some, but I really hadn't paid much attention until a couple of weeks ago when I was working on something and she was talking to me about the 2 names she had decided on. She mentioned Jocelyn, and then I laughed and asked if it was some kind of joke. She asked me why it would be a joke and I understood that she was being so serious. The problem with Jocelyn is that it is the name of the person who bullied me for at least 5 years in a row. It was the kind of situation where your bullies pretend to be your friends and say, "It's all a joke," so many times that even you believe it. I ended up really affected by that whole situation. Bullying was practically every day. Jocelyn and other girls made cruel jokes about me, about my weight, body, face, about how stupid and clumsy I was. They would open the bathroom door when I was in it and hold it behind it so I couldn't close it. They would hide my clothes, punish me by not talking with me for days until I cried and asked them to stop ignoring me. Cruel things. I had therapy, and Lily is aware of this situation, and I thought she understood because she was also bullied when she was a child. I asked her a second time if she was kidding and she said no. She said she had always thought it was a cute name, so I said, "You know you won't name my daughter after my bully, right?" And she replied that baby was also her daughter, that I should give a new meaning to that name and learn to love it because she had always wanted to name her future daughter that way. She said, "Consider it, maybe it will heal something in you. We're not little girls anymore." The comment bothered me, so I told her that there was nothing to consider. We started an argument about this that came to screaming and crying, mostly my crying. Then she said she needed air and left the house. When she came home we were both calmer, we apologized and she promised that she would consider more options if I also considered the name she wants. So I said yes, but I wasn't going to until we talked, or fought, again last week, and she said she was hurt because I didn't take her opinion into account and just refused. and she wanted me to apologize. She said that I was acting as a child. She also mentioned that I wasn't a little girl anymore, so I should face it and not make a problem out of it. I've come to think that I did take it too far and I'm the asshole for clinging too much to the past. Not the asshole. When people, finally, show you who they are, believe them. I know Reddit is a great place to hear, leave the relationship, but this should be a major deal-breaker. This is bizarre, controlling, manipulative and is just so completely off-kilter for your partner in life to insist on that name. Then double down and gaslight you. This is just unreal. This is who she is. Believe her. Not the asshole. I'm sorry, but your wife seems like a horribly manipulative person who's incapable of feeling empathy towards her own wife. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship where someone so blatantly disregarded my feelings just to further their own agenda. Part of me thinks none of this would have happened if you two had communicated better. But you are absolutely not the asshole for reacting how you did. Jocelyn is a name that brings back so much anxiety in you, and your feelings are valid. This is a hill to die on. Not the asshole. She doesn't sound very nice. In fact, she's no better than the girls at school that bullied you. Stand up for yourself always and make sure you get heard. Not the asshole. It's not too big an ask for out of the millions of names in the universe that she pick one that's not the name of your tormentor. I have to wonder if there's some kind of subconscious resentment, or feeling left out, on her end since you're the one birthing the baby, so this is some kind of power play? Because if it is, there are other ways to bridge the disconnect than insist on something that makes you feel bad. Am I the asshole for requesting therapy with just my mom? My mom is engaged to Charles and he and his kids, 13 male, 11 female and 9 female, moved in with us in February. I, 16 female, am the only one in the household who isn't talking about the wedding non-stop. My mom picked up on this a while ago and then she overheard me tell my friend I just wanted it to be over and that I wasn't excited for the wedding. So she asked if we could talk. It was a difficult conversation. I told my mom that I wasn't totally happy about the wedding, that it has been difficult for me, with Dad, who died when I was 10, being gone and some things that have been said. I told her I was so glad she was happy and I know Charles helped bring her back to herself. The conversation highlighted that I don't see Charles and his kids as my family and that I'm unsure if I'll ever consider them in that way. Some, maybe, relevant info to some of my feelings. When Charles and his kids moved in first, he took me out for pizza and told me he doesn't want us to be a blended family, he wants us to be just a family. And he doesn't want to be my stepdad. He wants to be my dad. He said he would do everything for me that he does for his kids and would be there for me always. He said we could start trialing out some dad names for me to call him. I told him I already have a dad and the sentiment was nice and all, but I was going to be his stepkid. He really challenged me on why I could only have one dad and why I didn't want one. It was very uncomfortable for me. He and his kids also tagged along when Mom and I went to remember Dad on his anniversary, at the diner we went to as a family. His kids talked non-stop about the wedding and we didn't actually get to talk about Dad. Then Charles declared we'd make it a family thing every year, and even when Mom was like let's just see, he was like it will be good for bonding. I didn't like that at all. It was the first time where I went and did a solo thing to remember Dad because I hated every second of the diner experience. Mom wanted us to explore this in family therapy and I asked for it to be just her and me. She was going to say no and then she asked why. I told her I would open up more with just her and a therapist and that I would rather make sure we're okay than work on trying to bond me to others right now. I told her I could see that she was hurting that I felt the way I do and I didn't want our relationship to be ruined by this. Mom agreed for therapy to be just me and her. We start next week. But Charles doesn't like that I wanted it to be just Mom and me. I think he was a little offended that I feel this way in the first place and then to not want to include him and his kids in family therapy. Mom told him she wished it could be all of us. But she didn't want to push me away or waste money by taking us all if I would find it difficult to open up around them. Charles told me I was putting my mom in a bad place and I was selfish and he has only ever tried to show me he loves me and will be my dad happily. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. The absolute gall of Charles to call you selfish as he utterly trampled on your feelings and traditions and memories of your father to force himself in place of your father. Utterly disgusting behavior. Charles sounds a pushy as heck. Not the asshole. I think you're doing it the right way. You will need to bring Charles into the therapy at some point. If only for your therapist to see how pushy he is and to deal with that. Stepdad. I want us to get to KO each other. You, well here's how I feel, stepdad. No, not like that, not the asshole. I hope you feel able to tell your therapist how things are. And that your mom is ready to hear uncomfortable truth. Not the asshole. Ask your therapist to intervene. Charles may believe them better. Charles is being a pushy asshole and needs to go sit himself down somewhere and be quiet.